The call came 37 minutes before Thanksgiving dinner. That was specific because I stared at the microwave clock the entire time my mother talked like she was reading hostage demands from a script. "Your sister thinks it would be better if you didn't come this year." I blinked at the cheap frozen turkey meal sitting on my counter. "Better for who?" A long pause. The kind parents use when they already picked a favorite child years ago and don't want to admit it out loud. "She's still uncomfortable after what happened at the barbecue." I nearly laughed hard enough to choke on my own spit. What happened at the barbecue? Apparently existing too close to my sister's husband while holding a beer counted as attempted seduction now. "You mean when Greg got drunk and started talking about yoga instructors' asses for 40 straight minutes? Please don't use language like that." "Oh, sorry. Rear ends. Buttocks. Gluteal regions." Another pause. I could practically hear her regretting giving birth to me. "She thinks you flirted with him." I leaned against the counter and stared at the sad little apartment around me. One folding chair. One dying plant. One smoke detector held together with duct tape and broken dreams. "Mom, your son looks like a rejected substitute teacher. Greg looks like a man who sells expired boat insurance. Why would I flirt with him? It's just better to keep the peace." There it was. The family motto. Not truth. Not fairness. Peace. Meaning, whatever kept my sister from crying dramatically into boxed wine for 6 hours. I almost argued. Almost defended myself. But something about the exhaustion in my chest stopped me. Nobody had asked for my side anyway. Greg said something stupid, my sister believed him instantly, and my parents folded faster than cheap lawn chairs. "All right," I said quietly. "Tell her congratulations. She wins Thanksgiving." My mother sighed with relief so loudly you'd think she just negotiated a ceasefire. "You understand, right?" "No," I said. "But I understand enough." Then I hung up. For about 10 seconds, the apartment stayed completely silent. Then my microwave exploded. Not metaphorically. Literally exploded. The frozen turkey dinner sparked like a small electrical war crime, smoke poured from the vents, and the smoke detector immediately began screaming at me like it also blamed me for ruining Thanksgiving. At the exact same moment, my neighbors started another violent argument through the wall. "You slept with my cousin Darren! That was before we were married!" I stood there holding a burnt plastic fork while alarms screamed around me and somebody next door apparently prepared for homicide. Honestly, it still felt less toxic than dinner at my parents' house. An hour later I sat alone on my couch eating slightly burnt pie straight from the container, while scrolling through random online games to distract myself from the fact my entire family had exiled me over the world's dumbest rumor. That's when I met her. Her username was impossible to pronounce, mostly symbols and glowing alien characters, but her profile picture looked like a purple-haired space pirate smiling beside what appeared to be either a laser rifle or a kitchen appliance. She joined voice chat immediately. "You sound emotionally damaged," she said casually. I blinked. "Hello to you too. Am I wrong?" I looked at my burned dinner. The smoking microwave. The pie balanced on my chest. "Uncomfortably accurate." She laughed. Loud. Genuine. Completely unfiltered. "Good. I hate small talk. Why are you alone during your harvest festival?" I don't know why I told her. Maybe because strangers online are easier than family. Maybe because her voice sounded amused instead of judgmental. By the time I finished explaining the situation, she was furious on my behalf. "They exiled you over hypothetical mating behavior?" she asked. "Humans are ridiculous." "Yeah, well, welcome to Earth." "No," she said. "On my planet your sister would be legally required to wrestle you for honor." I laughed for the first time all day. A real laugh. And somewhere between the burnt turkey smell and my neighbors screaming about infidelity, I realized something important. If my family wanted peace more than truth, fine. They could eat dry turkey without me. Turns out getting disowned from Thanksgiving was surprisingly good for my career. Mostly because rage is an incredible motivator. Over the next few years, I stopped trying to win arguments with people who had already decided I was the villain. Instead, I buried myself in work designing interactive entertainment software for luxury interspecies cruise liners. Which sounded impressive until you realized most of my job involved fixing alien romance simulators after drunk tourists accidentally married holograms. One customer complaint literally read, "Your program caused my husband to elope with a virtual lizard princess." I framed that one. The money, however, was very real. Apparently lonely rich aliens were willing to spend terrifying amounts of cash on immersive romantic fantasy experiences. Humanity had invented online dating disasters. Alien civilizations simply industrialized them. Somewhere along the way, my tiny depressing apartment turned into a high-rise condo overlooking the ocean. I started sleeping normal hours. I bought furniture that matched. I even owned towels people couldn't describe as suspicious. And through all of it, she stayed. The woman who had randomly mocked humanity during a Thanksgiving gaming session somehow became the center of my life. She moved to Earth after accepting a cultural exchange contract, though she openly admitted she mainly came because, in her words, "Your sarcasm activates my mating instincts." Romantic. Horrifying. Weirdly flattering. She was tall, sharp-eyed, completely fearless, and incapable of feeling embarrassment. Human social rules fascinated her the same way people study dangerous wildlife from behind glass. One night while we cooked dinner together, she pointed at a Thanksgiving advertisement on TV showing a smiling family holding hands around a turkey. Her silver eyes narrowed suspiciously. "So the purpose of this holiday is consuming excessive carbohydrates while secretly resenting relatives?" "Pretty much. And this is considered enjoyable?" "Only after enough alcohol." She nodded thoughtfully like an anthropologist documenting primitive behavior. "I wish to witness this ritual in person." I nearly dropped a frying pan. "Absolutely not." "Why?" "Because my family is emotionally unstable. All human families are emotionally unstable. Mine turns it into an Olympic event." She grinned immediately. "Excellent. I will wear formal combat attire." That should have been my warning sign. A week later my phone rang while we were watching old Earth romance movies together. Specifically one where two attractive idiots kissed dramatically in the rain instead of seeking medical attention for hypothermia. I checked the screen and froze. "Mom." My girlfriend immediately noticed. "You made the face." "What face?" "The face humans make before opening emotionally dangerous messages." I answered cautiously. "Hello?" My mother sounded awkward. Too cheerful. The same tone people use while approaching injured animals. "We were thinking maybe you should come for Thanksgiving this year." I sat there stunned. After years of silence, that was it. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just a casual invitation like I hadn't been erased from family photos emotionally. "Your sister says she wants everyone together again," Mom added carefully. From the couch, my girlfriend mouthed dramatically, "Trap." Honestly? Fair assessment. Still, curiosity crawled into my brain before common sense could stop it. I wanted to see them. Not because I missed them. Maybe part of me just wanted proof I'd survived without them. Mom kept talking nervously. "It would mean a lot to your father." Translation: Dad wanted peace again. Always peace. Never accountability. I looked around my apartment. The nice furniture. The city lights. The woman currently stealing garlic bread straight from the pan while pretending innocence. My life wasn't broken anymore. That surprised me most. "Fine," I said finally. "We'll come." Mom paused. "We?" My girlfriend leaned directly into the phone's speaker. "I am very excited to observe your harvest conflict ceremony." Silence. Then my mother whispered, "Oh dear God." The call ended shortly after that. I slowly lowered the phone while my girlfriend looked absolutely delighted. "You're enjoying this way too much." "Of course," she said proudly. "Your family rejected you unfairly. Now they must face consequences." You make this sound like a military operation. She smiled while stealing another piece of garlic bread. I have been studying human revenge films all week. That was deeply concerning. But honestly, for the first time in years, I wasn't dreading Thanksgiving. I was looking forward to the show. Walking back into my parents' house felt like entering a museum dedicated to unresolved tension. Nothing had changed. Same ugly wallpaper. Same family photos where everyone smiled like hostages. Same smell of turkey, cinnamon, and emotional repression. The only new thing was the silence when my girlfriend walked in behind me. Every head turned. She wore a dark silver dress with glowing alien patterns running along the sleeves, mostly because she'd learned humans found bioluminescent formalware intimidatingly attractive. Which, unfortunately, was accurate. Mom nearly dropped a tray of stuffing. Dad looked confused but impressed. My sister looked like she'd accidentally swallowed a lemon whole. And Greg? Greg looked terrified. Interesting. My girlfriend smiled warmly and extended a hand toward my mother. Greetings. Thank you for allowing me to attend your annual conflict banquet. Mom blinked. Our what? The ritual where everyone consumes large quantities of food while avoiding unresolved hostility. Dad coughed violently into his drink, trying not to laugh. I loved her instantly all over again. Dinner started painfully polite. The kind of fake politeness where every sentence sounds one inconvenience away from homicide. So, my sister said tightly, sipping wine. How long have you two been together? 4 years, my girlfriend answered happily. My sister nearly choked. 4? Yes. He is emotionally supportive, highly intelligent, and surprisingly skilled at. I interrupted immediately. Anyway. Nice turkey. My girlfriend looked genuinely confused by my panic while my mother turned bright red. Greg started drinking wine like a man preparing for impact. The longer dinner continued, the weirder things became. My girlfriend had absolutely no social fear whatsoever. At one point she looked directly at my sister and asked, "Why did you exile your brother without investigating the accusation?" The entire table froze. My sister forced a laugh. It's complicated. It seemed straightforward. My girlfriend replied calmly. Your husband claimed inappropriate mating behavior, and you immediately believed him despite lacking evidence. Dad suddenly became very interested in buttering rolls. Mom tried to change the subject. Who wants more mashed potatoes? No, seriously. My girlfriend continued. On my planet, false accusations during pair bonding disputes are punishable by public embarrassment and temporary livestock duty. Greg spilled wine on himself. Beautiful. Cinematic. Deserved. By dessert, everyone was drunk enough to make catastrophic decisions. That's when my cousin Tyler pulled out cards and shouted, Truth or dare! Every terrible family memory I had suddenly made sense. Alcoholism clearly ran genetically. My girlfriend got unbelievably excited. Oh, I know this game. Humans reveal secrets and psychologically damage each other for entertainment. Pretty much, I admitted. Within 20 minutes, the entire dinner collapsed into chaos. Dad admitted he once lied about fixing the sink because he wanted to see if it repaired itself naturally. Mom confessed she secretly hated her own casserole recipe but kept making it because people expected it. Tyler revealed he'd been banned from 3 separate aquarium gift shops. Then Greg got selected. He was sweating visibly now, eyes glassy from too much wine. Tyler grinned. Truth or dare? Greg laughed nervously. Truth. Mistake. My girlfriend leaned forward immediately, fascinated like a scientist observing unstable chemicals. Tyler smirked. Okay, what's the worst thing you've ever done? Greg hesitated. My sister narrowed her eyes. Greg? He grabbed his wine. Drank half the glass. Then the idiot made the fatal mistake of continuing to talk. I mean, technically blaming your brother for flirting with me was worse than the actual cheating. Silence. Complete silence. Even the air conditioning sounded shocked. My fork slowly stopped halfway to my pie. My sister blinked twice. What? Greg froze. The alcohol had clearly disconnected his survival instincts. I just panicked, okay? He blurted. The yoga instructor thing was getting serious, and you were already suspicious, and your brother was there and… The wine glass hit the wall beside his head. My sister stood up so violently her chair crashed backward. You what? Then everything happened at once. Mom started crying. Dad yelled. I knew it was the yoga instructor! Tyler screamed. Oh my God, this is better than last year! Someone knocked the turkey carcass onto the floor. Greg tried explaining while dodging dinner rolls being thrown at his face. And through all of it, my girlfriend calmly took another bite of mashed potatoes and whispered to me. Your species is incredible. Honestly? Best Thanksgiving I'd ever had. The next morning looked like a crime scene sponsored by cheap wine and bad decisions. Half-eaten pie covered the dining table. Someone had stepped on a dinner roll. The turkey platter sat upside down near the hallway like it had attempted escape during the night. And Greg was asleep on the patio furniture wearing one sock. I stood in the kitchen quietly making coffee while the house remained painfully silent. That strange silence families create after saying things nobody can unsay. My girlfriend wandered in wearing one of my oversized shirts, completely relaxed. I did not sleep well, she announced. I handed her coffee. Too much chaos? No. Your father snores like malfunctioning machinery. Fair. She leaned against the counter and looked outside through the window where Greg was slowly waking up in 40-degree weather. Is he dead? Unfortunately not. Greg sat upright suddenly, confused and shivering. Then he realized the patio door was locked. A second later my sister stormed into the kitchen still wearing yesterday's makeup and the expression of a woman one inconvenience away from arson. She saw Greg outside and pointed furiously. Leave him there. Honestly? Nobody argued. Dad eventually shuffled into the room looking exhausted beyond human comprehension. He grabbed coffee, stared at me awkwardly, then sighed. We handled this badly. That might have been the closest thing to an apology I'd heard from him in my entire adult life. Mom entered next, eyes swollen from crying. I should have listened to you, she admitted quietly. I looked at both of them for a long moment. Years ago I probably would have exploded. Screamed. Demanded accountability. But sitting there now, watching the disaster finally collapse under its own lies, I mostly just felt tired. The rumor wasn't even the worst part, I said calmly. It was how easy it was for everyone to believe it. Nobody spoke. I continued stirring my coffee. None of you asked me if it was true. You just needed someone convenient to blame so dinner wouldn't get awkward. Dad stared at the floor. Mom looked seconds away from crying again. My girlfriend stepped beside me and crossed her arms protectively. In his absence, she said firmly, he built a successful life, formed healthy emotional bonds, and learned self-worth independent of your approval. Statistically speaking, your rejection improved him. Mom blinked. That's oddly hurtful. She means well, I said. I absolutely do not. Outside, Greg started banging on the patio door dramatically. Can somebody let me in? My sister marched to the window and screamed back. Ask the yoga instructor. I nearly inhaled coffee into my lungs. Dad muttered, That's actually pretty funny. For the first time in years, everyone laughed at the same time. Not fake polite laughter either. Real laughter. Exhausted, broken, slightly unhinged laughter. Even my sister laughed eventually, though hers sounded dangerously close to a nervous breakdown. A few hours later, my girlfriend and I packed our bags to leave. Mom hugged me awkwardly before we walked out. Dad shook my hand like he wasn't emotionally prepared for affection. My sister stayed upstairs refusing to discuss Greg, who was now desperately calling hotels because apparently none of his friends wanted him either. Karma truly was beautiful sometimes. As we reached the car, my girlfriend slipped her hand into mine. So, she asked, smiling softly, will we return next cycle for the Harvest Conflict Festival? I looked back at the house one last time. Honestly, maybe. Not because everything was magically fixed. Families don't heal in one night. But for the first time, the truth had finally landed exactly where it belonged. And this time, I wasn't the one left outside. I squeezed her hand gently and smiled. You know, I said, I think I finally figured out the secret to Thanksgiving. She tilted her head curiously. What is it? It's a lot more fun when the people at the table actually want you there.